At exactly 2:17 a.m., my grandmother started burning photographs in the rain. Not paper offerings, not incense money, actual photographs, family photos, one after another. And while the flames consumed them, she kept whispering the same sentence over and over in Vietnamese. It cannot recognize him. It cannot recognize him. That was the moment I realized something horrifying. The spirits wandering during Lunar July weren't looking for random victims. They were looking for me. My name is Daniel Nguyen. I grew up in California. Like most second-generation Vietnamese kids, I didn't really believe in spiritual stuff. Ghosts, ancestors, offerings. I respected the traditions, but I never took them seriously. My grandmother did. Every phone call with her ended with another warning. Never whistle at night. Never sleep facing the door. Never answer your name after midnight. And every year, around Lunar July, she became completely different. Paranoid, terrified. Sometimes, she wouldn't even leave the house after sunset. When I was younger, I thought it was dementia, or trauma from growing up during the war. But 3 months before she died, she called my mother crying, actually crying, and she said something that made no sense at all. Do not let Daniel return during Ghost Month. At the time, none of us understood what she meant. Then my mother got sick, not seriously, but enough that she couldn't travel. So instead of both of us visiting Vietnam that summer, I went alone. And that turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. Act 1. The village. My grandmother lived in a remote village several hours north of Hanoi. The farther I traveled from the city, the stranger things became. Entire roadside shrines covered in incense ash, paper offerings burning outside homes, people avoiding eye contact after dark. Even the taxi driver became nervous once sunset approached. At one point, he suddenly locked the doors. I remember laughing awkwardly and asking, "Is this area dangerous or something?" He stared at me through the rearview mirror for several seconds before answering. Not for locals. That should have been my first warning. I arrived just before rain started falling over the rice fields. The village looked almost abandoned. Wooden homes stood silently behind fog and banana trees. Ancestor altars glowed red behind dark windows. And everywhere, there was smoke, incense smoke drifting through the rain. My grandmother opened the door before I even knocked. The moment she saw me, her expression changed completely. Not happiness. Fear. Real fear. She grabbed my face with shaking hands and whispered, "Why did they let you come here?" Not, "Why did you come?" Why did they let you come? Act 2. The first rules. That night during dinner, my grandmother barely spoke. The television remained muted. The windows stayed locked. Even the family dog hid beneath the table, trembling. Finally, I asked her directly, "What's happening here?" My grandmother looked toward the altar before answering. Lunar July began 3 nights ago. Ghost Month, the month when the dead return. I expected another cultural explanation. Instead, she stood up immediately and closed every curtain in the house. Only then did she continue. Hungry spirits wander during Lunar July. Most are harmless. Most are only looking for food. She paused. But some spirits are looking for people. Thunder rolled across the rice fields outside. Then she gave me the rules. Rule 1, never whistle at night. Rule 2, If someone calls your name after midnight, wait before answering. Rule 3. Never eat food left outside as offerings. Rule 4. Do not look into mirrors after 2 a.m. I laughed a little at that one. She didn't. Rule 5. No matter who knocks, never open the back door after midnight. Then she added something quietly, something I didn't understand until much later. Especially this year. Act 3. The photograph. I couldn't sleep that night. Rain hammered the roof endlessly. The house smelled thick with incense. Around 1 a.m., I went downstairs looking for water. That was when I noticed the old family photographs beside the altar. Black and white photos, funerals, weddings, village ceremonies. And one image immediately caught my attention. A photograph dated 1978. In it, several villagers stood together during Ghost Month. But in the background, partially hidden behind incense smoke, stood a woman in white, long black hair, face obscured. Watching the camera, at first I assumed it was coincidence, until I picked up another photograph. Same woman, different year, different location. Still watching. Then another. And another. My chest tightened. Every Lunar July photo contained the same woman, always distant, always blurred, always there. Then I noticed something even worse. In the final photograph, she wasn't standing in the background anymore. She was standing directly beside my grandmother, and written on the back in faded Vietnamese handwriting were 4 words. She finally found him. I nearly dropped the photograph. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, wet, dragging across the wooden floor. My grandmother was asleep downstairs. I checked, which meant someone else was upstairs. Act 4, Noah. The history. The next morning, I confronted my grandmother about the photographs. The moment she saw them, her face lost all color. She snatched them away immediately. Then she finally told me the truth. When I was 6 years old, I almost died. A drowning accident during a family trip in California. Doctors revived me after several minutes without breathing. But according to my grandmother, something came back with me. She believed a wandering spirit attached itself to me while I was between life and death. At first, nothing happened. Then Lunar July arrived that same year, and strange things began appearing around our apartment. Wet footprints, the smell of river water, scratching sounds behind mirrors. My grandmother flew to America immediately, and during Ghost Month, she performed an old ritual forbidden in her village. A ritual meant to confuse wandering spirits, to make them lose track of a person. That was why she burned photographs, destroyed belongings, covered mirrors, erased traces. For years, it worked, until now, because during certain years, the gates opened wider, and according to her, this Lunar July was the worst in decades. Act 5. The whistling. That evening, the village lost power. No lights, no televisions, nothing except candlelight and rain. The darkness outside looked alive. I tried distracting myself with my phone, but there was no signal. Around midnight, I heard it. Whistling. Far away across the rice fields. Soft at first, then closer. My grandmother froze instantly. The dog beneath the table began whining. The whistling sounded almost playful. Human. But wrong somehow. Like someone imitating human behavior without understanding it completely. Then another whistle answered from farther away. Then another. Moving through the fields. Closing in. My grandmother extinguished every candle immediately. The house plunged into darkness, and in the pitch black silence, something outside whispered my name. Not loudly, not aggressively, just softly, patiently. Daniel. Then came knocking at the back door. 3 slow knocks. My grandmother gripped my arm painfully hard and whispered, "Do not let it know you hear it." The knocking continued for nearly 20 minutes, then suddenly stopped. That was worse, because a few seconds later, I heard wet footsteps inside the house, upstairs. I see 6. The mirror. I wish I could say I stayed calm. I didn't. Every instinct in my body screamed to run, but the footsteps upstairs kept moving slowly from room to room, like something searching. Eventually, against my grandmother's warnings, I looked into the hallway mirror and immediately saw someone standing behind me. A woman. Tall, drenched in rainwater, her face hidden behind long black hair. I spun around instantly. Nothing there. But in the mirror, she remained, completely motionless. Then slowly, she raised one hand and pointed toward the altar. I turned toward it and nearly vomited. Every family photograph around the altar had changed, faces scratched out, except mine. My photograph remained untouched, circled in black ash. Then the woman in the mirror finally spoke. Her voice sounded like water filling a drowning lung. "I remember you." The mirror cracked violently from top to bottom, and every dog in the village began screaming at once. Act 7. The reveal. My grandmother finally confessed everything before dawn. The spirit haunting me was never random. Decades ago, during the famine after the war, villagers performed forbidden rituals during Lunar July. Offerings, prayers, deals, anything to survive. One ritual involved promising a future family member to wandering spirits in exchange for protection. Most believed it was only superstition, until people began disappearing, children first, then entire families. My grandmother's older sister vanished during Ghost Month in 1978. Only wet footprints remained. After that, the village abandoned the ritual completely. But my grandmother believed the promise was never broken, only delayed. And when I nearly drowned as a child, the spirits recognized me. They believed I belonged to them. That was why the woman appeared in every photograph. She wasn't haunting the village. She was waiting for me to return. The last night. The final night of Lunar July arrived with violent rainstorms. The entire village shut down before sunset. No lights anywhere, only incense glowing red in the darkness. My grandmother placed offerings outside every entrance to the house. Bowls of rice, tea, burning paper money. Then she locked every door and whispered, "If it enters before sunrise, you will never leave." At around 2:13 a.m., someone knocked on my bedroom door. Not the back door, my bedroom door. Then came my mother's voice, crying, begging me to open it. I almost did. God, I almost did. But then I remembered something horrifying. My mother always called me Danny, never Daniel. The knocking became violent suddenly. The entire house shook. Outside, dozens of voices began whispering together in the rain. And through the window, I saw figures standing motionless throughout the flooded rice fields, watching the house, waiting. Then the incense at the altar extinguished. Every single flame died instantly. My grandmother screamed downstairs, and all at once, the whispering stopped. Silence filled the house completely, Then came one final sound. Wet footsteps, walking slowly toward my room from inside the hallway, stopping directly outside my door. A long silence followed. Then a woman's voice whispered softly from the other side. "Your family already promised you to us." The door handle began turning slowly. Once, twice, then stopped, and from the darkness outside, something else spoke. My grandmother, praying, crying, begging. The chanting continued for nearly an hour, until finally, the footsteps retreated. Back down the hallway, back through the house, back into the rain, and just before sunrise, I heard one final whisper outside my window. "Next Lunar July." My grandmother died 2 weeks later. Before the funeral, villagers covered every mirror in the house. Nobody explained why. I didn't ask. I returned to California after that, and for almost a year, nothing happened. Until last night, I woke up at exactly 2:13 a.m. to the smell of incense in my apartment. The air felt damp, like river water. Then I noticed something beside my bedroom door, wet footprints, leading inward, not outward. And hanging on my hallway mirror was a photograph I had never seen before. A family photo dated 1978. The woman in white standing in the background, watching the camera, watching me. And beside her was a little boy. A little Vietnamese boy standing ankle-deep in floodwater, wearing the exact same necklace I wore as a child.